push on the bear ETF. It is starting to come down pretty sharply. I do have buyable levels on the SPY, guys. I do have buyable levels on the SPY. We have a couple different streams going on. We're just trying something new today. We have 2 streams going on. If you're wondering what is happening here at Trading Capital, we have 2 screens going on. A lot of the small caps are getting wrecked today. They are getting wrecked. All sectors are red, guys. This could be a confirming downtrend today. All sectors are red. Today, all sectors are red, I repeat. SOX is absolutely flying here. SPY still trying to catch a bid. MSTR is coming in. Coinbase coming in now. All right, SPY is coming up into its first little level of support here. You have this upsloping trend line. It hasn't officially tagged it yet. Dollar's also moving up. Bitcoin's coming down. Oil's still trying to hold above. But seeing a couple consolidation candles. Tesla's still holding positive at the moment, showing a little bit of relative strength. Apple went negative. Microsoft's kind of lagging. I do expect a QQQ bounce at some point, and then more downside. Apple's coming in. Tesla's still holding firm. Nvidia's underperforming. All right, guys, I just took profits on that SOXS from yesterday. Yesterday's day trade, we took profits. Closed it here at 416. I'm still holding a swing, but nice 5.96%. Beautiful job. Beautiful job. Again, I'll pull that up on the screen here as well. SOXS, we took profits off of that 392 level that we went long yesterday. I do think that there's going to be more downside, but we'll just be patient with it. Let's look at natural gas because that's actually retesting support. Natural gas is coming up into my buyable range here. I would like to see it push basically down to here, and then we can go long. So keep nat gas on watch. Definitely keep natural gas on watch. All right, so we're seeing the S&P bouncing a little bit here, guys. We are seeing the S&P bouncing. Oil's still charging higher. Nice bounce on Nvidia. Coin, Bitcoin still coming in. Meta's pushing for a new high. I do like Google potentially for a long here, guys. I like Google for a long here. So let's just look at Google. All right, guys, I'm long Google 137.24, 137.24. It's just a starter position. We are long Google, the GOGL shares. 137.24. Starter position, guys. Starter position. There is a chance we can actually flush down to this pivot and then this gap fill, which is why we're just inching in right now on the long side. Tesla's having a face ripper, pushing up. Nvidia's had a really big bounce. Next ad level on Google's 136.50. Guys, I just added to my Google there 136.89, 136.89. I just added to my Google 136.89. So our average is now 137.07. Google's still coming down heavy here. Still interested in a nat gas long. Tesla's ripping. Microsoft's coming in. So semis are still under pressure, the likes of AMD, Nvidia. So we're just holding a Google long at the moment. Still interested in nat gas, but it needs to go a little bit lower around that 185, 184 zone. You're seeing energy stocks like XOM bounce nicely here. If we take a look at some of the market movers, guys. Look at the top movers. eBay, First Solar. The bottom, you have United Health showing great weakness on the back of that investigation, antitrust laws. All right, back to Google because we are now in the money. SPY is bouncing here. Nat gas still coming in. Huge bounce in Amazon. Tesla continuing to rip. Microsoft's turned negative. Apple's looking weak. So we have a long on Google. I am looking at potentially a short on Apple as well. You know, Apple's still technically... Actually, maybe we can fade Microsoft. Let's... Just trying to get a little bit more data here. Wait for a true signal. Look at the QQQ. Dollar's still trying to move up. Qs are still trying to move up. Let's look at the Russell. All right, guys, the Russell's into this gap window. I think we could actually see it probably fill this gap. So I'm going to fade the Russell here. 202.55. I just got filled. 202.55 short the Russell. 202. This is a 1/4 entry. All right, Google's coming up into the next target, which is around 136.50. 136.50 we'll add to Google. SPY is still trying. AMD is trying to bounce. Oil's still pushing up. A couple sectors have turned green. Consumer discretionary, so XLY and energy, XLE and XLI. So a little bit more of the defensive names starting to firm up here. Google's still trending a little bit lower. 136.50 is approaching on Google, guys. 136.50 is approaching. And you have your gap fill. Now Tesla's starting to weaken. Google, we did get filled at that 136.50. Brings our average into 136.84, 136.84 average. $136.84. All right, guys, I just added to the Russell short here at 203.15, 203.15 right into this zone. 203.15. So it brings our average up to 202.86. 202.86. Short the Russell. Google's trying to bounce. Energy stocks absolutely ripping here. Microsoft's coming in. Google's starting to try to bounce here. Come on, Google. Get your big butt up there. I got 7 here. Oil's still climbing much higher here. Dollars kind of fade a little bit. Yields on the long end are still green. You have Nvidia down 1%, Apple down 0.4, Microsoft down 0.16, AMD down 1.45. Bitcoin still up 5.7. You know, crypto stocks have faded from the highs, but still showing pretty resilient price action. Small caps are still holding firm. Google just does not want to bounce off this area yet. Next ad level on Google. Let's look at this daily chart. So we're going to be, I mean, really this gap fill, but I'd be surprised if there's this liquidity gap up doesn't try to push it up at this 136.25 zone. So, I mean, you do have some support here at 136.25, but it's a little close to our last average ad. So we'll look for a move down to about 136.15. IWM still trying to push up. Nat Gas still trying to push up. Let's look at some of these market movers. Still the same ones. First Solar, eBay. Take a look at energy. Energy stocks are absolutely face ripping. All right, so Google still hasn't really bounced. The Russell you can see is trying to bounce. Let's look at the S&P 500 here. And one of the reasons that Google's not bouncing is take a look at the Qs. Just super weak. Basically right back down to the lows of the session here. The Qs are actually breaking this key trend line. So, I mean, the fierce selling in mega cap tech is still continuing. I still think we're at support. So I like to see this bounce here. Meta's pulling in. Google's still trending lower here. Just the fierce selling in Google is trying to break this market down. So we're coming up into the next ad level. Google's super, super weak at this point in time. So 136.15 we will add to Google. 136.15. Dollars coming lower here. All right, guys, I just got filled there at 136.14. 136.14 on Google. Brings our average down to 136.54. So we're sitting with a 136.54 average. Wow. They're just taking Google to the woodshed here. Final entry. This was going bigger than what I usually do, but since it's a mega cap and since we are having a big daily support range here, I am comfortable adding a fifth entry on Google, which is going to be at this technical gap on the daily right here at 135.72. So that'll be the final entry on Google. Hey Tom, we're actually long on Google. We are long on Google. Slightly down on the trade, but we are long on Google. Oil's continuing to absolutely rip here, guys. Nat gas still holding most of its gains. You have had Nvidia bounce a little bit. Apple curling down. Microsoft curling down. Meta's the one that's firmed up. Amazon's also strong. And Google just keeps bleeding. It's now down on the session 2.1%, severely underperforming the market. You're coming into this big technical gap fill on the daily. Very oversold intraday. Extremely oversold intraday. But the Qs are trying to break down here. Small bounce in Google here, guys. Still holding our Russell short, Google long. Bitcoin, you can see, still holding resiliency here. All right, so Google's still bleeding lower. AMD just made a new low. Nvidia's testing the lows. Tesla's done an absolute bearish reversal. So this is a confirming downtrend, it looks like, today. So just be careful. I mean, we're getting obviously hit on our Google long right now. Still much or oversold compared to some of the other mega cap tech stocks. So I still think we could see the market sell off, but we should see a bounce here in Google at some point, getting extremely oversold. You can see the Qs are actually breaking down here now, and they're coming up into this gap window. So you lose this little pivot here on the Qs. And let me actually just show you that pivot zone on the Qs. But look at this technical breakdown on the Qs. And the next big pivot comes right around this 433.65 zone. Google's getting a nice little bounce as the indices still sell off here. So big technical breakdown in the Qs. Really big technical breakdown in the Qs. Wow. What fierce sell side pressure, guys. That's pretty fierce. Google's still bouncing. So now if we get a bounce in the Qs, Google's going to absolutely rip. Google will rip. So it's showing a little bit of relative divergence, strength. Should absolutely rip. All right, we're basically break even on Google, and we're flat on our Russell 2000 trade. And Google's bouncing, and the Qs really aren't even bouncing yet. So the Qs aren't even bouncing yet, but Google's had a nice bounce. So that's a good positive sign at the moment. I do think that's a really good sign at the moment. We should get a technical bounce in the market. We're now in the money on Google, guys. Good job. We are in the money on Google. No problem, Mike. You're welcome. Try to answer as quickly as I can, but sometimes it's just a little intense here with the market open. And we're doing something different a little today. We have 2 streams going. I'm trying out some new broadcasting software. That's why you may see 2 different streams going. A couple people in one stream, another couple people in the other. So if we still look at the market movers today in the S&P, take a look at these market movers. So the top gainers right now, First Solar, so solar stocks ripping. Universal Health, Axon. Qs are getting a small bounce here. So back to Google. Russell trade, we're basically slightly green on the Russell. Again, Qs really haven't gotten a bounce yet. If you look where the SPY is trading, the relative strength definitely is in the SPY. SPY is hitting this upsloping trend line, which we discussed. And remember, I said we'd likely get a bounce off of here. And then I think we actually break it at some point today. So SPY is getting a bounce. QQQ. Likely retest this 435.31 zone. Nat gas is actually starting to rip here again. So Nat gas is starting to fly. Bitcoin still hovering. Apple still curling down. Nvidia is getting a bounce. So we already took profits on our semiconductor. Still holding a Google long and a Russell 2000 short. Amazon's negative, Google's negative, Meta's positive. Bitcoin's up 6.5%. Fisker up another 5%. So remember we gave you that Fisker long yesterday. We'll take a look at that Fisker trade, FSR. You know, we prepped you, we warned you about this one squeezing and breaking higher. Upside target is still 77 cents here. So remember when we went long at that 64, retrace to the neckline, and look at that power move. Boom. Only regret isn't holding more of it. All right, Qs are still trying to bounce here. Google's still seeing sell side pressure. So that's definitely hurting Definitely hurting the overall market, but it is definitely oversold compared to a lot of the counterparties. We're just trying to build a base here on Google, but it's right back down almost to the lows. Bitcoin just made a new high, intraday high, 60,870. So it's continuing to absolutely fly to the high side here. Coinbase moving up. Mara trying to push up for a new high. Still inside of yesterday's heavy reversal, which is certainly interesting. Apple curling down still, so you still have such heaviness in Microsoft and Apple that it's really struggling here. Dollar is hovering at that 104 zone. Hey, good morning, Ram. Good morning, Casey. Good morning, Muad. Sorry I didn't see your messages earlier. Just trying something new here, managing 2 streams. But regardless, Casey, you're looking at GEHC daily chart long entry at 92.69 with a stop at 85. Yes, Ram, I think you can definitely hold the stocks. I'm in a swing trade. I buy both stocks and options, Ram. But mainly just common shares, stocks. But I think you can definitely squeeze more out of the SOXS. I do think you can squeeze more out of that trade. I'm still holding a swing on SOXS, but closed a day trade. Because the day trades are heavier. You have to take profits sooner off of day trades. Swings you can hold a little bit longer. But let's look at Casey, GEHC for Casey. GEHC. So yeah, this is looking like a nice chart. I mean, a little extended. GE Healthcare. I mean, you have had a technical breakout out of this little inverse head and shoulders pattern. I'll pull up GEHC here as well so the other viewers can see it. But you did form a inverse head and shoulders base. I mean, this pattern has potentially a lot of legs to it. But I think you are actually coming up into the completed move here. Yeah, so you're nearing completion of this move, Casey. Of this head and shoulder, inverse head and shoulders move. So, I mean, the upside target really puts you around this 94 range. We're at almost there as we speak. So, I mean, could it overshoot and go higher for sure. But already 4 or 5 weeks up. Market's been strong, so this stock has been strong. But if we go through a little bit of a corrective stage, even the strong stocks are still vulnerable to potentially correcting. But yeah, I have a 94 target on GEHC. So Qs are really struggling. Take a look at XOM. Absolutely flying here. Absolutely flying to the high side. This is probably going to hit 105.60, maybe even 106 today. You have a big technical resistance sitting at this level, or you got previously rejected. Take a look at that pivot. That's sitting at 105.86. I think we're going to hit that today, especially if we get some sort of a little technical bounce in the market, which I do anticipate at some point. Investors are moving to crypto. Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing here is a rotation trade out of the tech equities into maybe crypto. You know, remember how big the S&P 500 tech market is in comparison to crypto? A big difference. A really big difference. All right, guys, I'm going to short Mara. I'm going to try to short Mara here at this 32.60. I just got filled at 32.60. Short Mara, 32.60. This is a high risk trade. This is just a starter position on the short side of MARA. Just a starter position on the short side of MARA. high risk. You know, we have seen these crypto stocks absolutely rip. And Bitcoin's strong today. But we're at this double top from yesterday's high. Could even see it retesting this 31 zone. Google, we're still long Google. Still have a short on the Russell, the IWM. So again, guys, we're long Google, short Mara, short Russell. Basically flat on Mara, flat on the Russell, and slightly down on Google. Google still could hit this gap fill around 135.70. That's still a feasible target on Google. Yeah, your gap fill sits right at this zone of 135.72. Bitcoin's starting to come in a little bit. That should help our Mara trade, guys. That should help our Mara trade. Again, if Bitcoin also weakens, that's going to apply some pressure to the semiconductor market. Heavy volume on Meta. Nice push up in Google trying here. Google's trying to regain its footing. We could see Google probably retrace all the way back up to 137.20-ish. 137.20 is your next resistance. Tesla's still weak. Remember, Tesla was strong earlier, and it's given up all of its gains. So we're now flat on, again, flat on our Russell. In the money on Mara. In the money on Mara, guys. What do you think about the halving? You know, typically, historically, I mean, you get this big run up before the halving, which is what we're seeing in crypto now. And then actually, as the halving approaches, you typically get a big sell-off. So from my technical standpoint, I can't chase Bitcoin here. Could it make new highs? Absolutely. But could it also have a 10, 20, 30% correction from this point? Absolutely, it could. So I think the important thing about Mara is going to be watching how does it close today. So notice how Bitcoin's screaming, making new highs, and Mara is still inside of yesterday's previous reversal candle. So right now, Mara attempted at breaking out, has every rhyme or reason to break out and make new highs today, but it's not doing so. So it's not really following. It's actually showing relative weakness, which is telling me that, okay, Bitcoin's probably getting a little bit toppy here, long in the tooth, and we could see a little bit more of some consolidation. AMD new lows, Microsoft new lows, Google still trying to hold firm. Semis are still under immense pressure. Mara is coming in nicely, guys. So Mara is coming in nicely. Take a look at that. So we're up now on the trade quite significantly. So good job if you've been able to catch that with us. That'll be another winning trade as we start to put stops in place. I'm going to put a protective stop in place. In the money stop at 32.32 now on Mara, 32.32 stop. I'm looking for a move down to this 31.26. You could even flush to gap fill. That would not surprise me. Bitcoin's starting to roll a little bit. So imagine if Bitcoin starts to roll heavier to the downside. What is that going to do to this market? Google's still trying to firm up. Qs are still holding some support. Come on, Google, get your butt up there. Amazon's weakening substantially here. Tesla's catching a bounce. So again, we're seeing some rotation coming into the picture. All right, guys, I'm moving my stop down on Mara now to 32.07. We're locking in at least 53 cents a share. 32.07. You know, I'm seeing the indices trying to firm up here, so I'm going to cover Mara. I just covered Mara here at 31.91. 31.91 covered. That's a nice little trade. That's a nice little trade on MARA on the short side, so we banked over 2% on that trade. Google's now starting to firm up. Let's look at the Qs to see how they're doing. Qs, really, really big bounce. Really, really big bounce. The Russell as well. IWM, that one's kind of going against us at the moment. It looks like it wants to charge the gap fill. So I'll really only add at the gap fill to the Russell trade. But the Russell is trying to push higher here, so that trade is against us at the moment. Next add level is really only at gap fill on the Russell. So I apologize about the Russell, but we are insulated with Google now, with the SOX profit that we made, and then the Mara trade. So we're still showing great trades on the books today, but we are kind of getting kicked around by the Russell at the moment. I still think Google can push all the way up to about 137. So I'm looking for a move to 137 on Google. Yep, suffers. Today is Mara earnings. XOM in the money. Nice job. Nice job. It is in the money. Big bounce in the S&P. Really big bounce in the S&P 500. Google, we're in the money terrifically now, so I'm still holding Google. Still holding Google on the long side. That is working out really, really well. First resistance is coming up into this 136.89 zone, but really I expect us to get to this zone over here. A little bit of sell side pressure. Dollar's still trying to move up here. It is holding above 104 quite firmly, quite firmly. But I mean, it's a risk with Mara into earnings. It could pop, it could drop. You know, based off of the strength in crypto, I think you have to kind of lean more bullish. You know, I think with Bitcoin, crypto making new 52-week highs, these crypto stocks are going to have undoubtedly some momentum behind it. So I think investors will pump it up into the into the close. You know, the only thing that would take Mara down is if they, I remember a couple months back they did release that potential shelf offering on Mara. So the only part that could hurt Mara is if they come out, the board comes out and releases that shelf offering and dilutes the shareholders a bit, grabs some more cash to firm up their balance sheet. That's the only thing that I could see taking it down. Other than that, I mean, how can Mara report crappy earnings if Bitcoin's been making new 52-week highs and really pumping? So, you know, it really supports positive flows and likely goes higher. But stranger things have happened, right? Whenever you seem to have a logical opinion about the market, it comes and slaps you in the face. So Nvidia is still above pre-market low, but pre-market low was all the way at 770. 770. Google took a little bit of a sell-off there. Now 10%. Yeah, XOM. I think it's going to hit 105.80 today, Ram. Look at oil. Oil's so strong. You know, I love XOM. I'm actually riding 106 calls, which are almost in the money. But yeah, 105s are in the money. I personally would let them ride. I mean, XOM has been trying to break out of this consolidation range for a long time now. And when you look at oil, oil's actually broken out of its consolidation range. So you expect XOM to continue to move higher here. Oil has triggered this inverse head and shoulders on the hourly chart. And today, if oil holds above these two little pivot zones, you can see it's actually triggering a daily inverse head and shoulders. As long as you close above this little neckline, I mean, I have a potential target of $90 on oil. What would that do to inflation? What would that do to stocks? What would that do to the consumer? I mean, as a consumer, and I'm bullish on oil, but I don't like being bullish on oil because that's going to hurt my business. That's going to hurt the inflation. That's going to hurt everyone. But I mean, we're here to make money, right? So we have to trade accordingly. The profits from our XOM calls, our other energy trades are likely going to cover any associated extra costs. But nevertheless, it's not good for the economy when oil has a technical breakout. Never good for the economy. So I still remain bullish on XOM. You know, maybe you can trim profits, but this chart's looking strong. You know, a strong chart in a weak market, that's what you also have to remember. You have the S&P, the Qs all down today, but XOM is up. Most sectors, so, you know, whenever you have a strong chart in the market, say the market starts to bounce, you know, okay, here's the risk though. We do have oil inventories. What is it, at 11? I think we have oil inventories, 10:30 or 11. I'd have to double check that. So, I mean, there's always a risk holding into oil inventories. You could get a big spike down, big spike up. So, Ram, if you want to take profits, I totally understand playing it safe, but I'm going to hold. I am going to hold. All right, so Apple coming in a little bit more. Google bounce is kind of weak at the moment, but still trying to hold. Really, if you look at what is transpiring here on Google, we could be forming a little bit of a base to move higher. I really want to stay above this pivot zone, but you are seeing the Qs weakening here a little bit. Potential inverse head and shoulders forming on the Qs. That would give a nice little breakout. If we trigger, you know, you could be forming a little right shoulder here. Your neckline would now be from this pivot zone. So watching that pattern closely on the Qs. Dollar at the lows, now closing below 104. So it could push, this market could absolutely rip higher here. Look at Bitcoin just charging because the dollar's falling. QQQ pattern. Look at that little inverse head and shoulders. Potential. Hasn't triggered. Has not triggered. And you still have a lot of weakness in the tech space. A lot of weakness in the tech space. Tesla's moving up. Meta's getting sold into. Google's coming back down again. Tesla's going for a new high of day. Let's take a quick peek at these market movers again. So Russell's coming in as the Qs are trying to round and firm up. All right, guys, I'm going to short Mara again, M-A-R-A. Just got filled at 32.40, 32.40. Slightly lower than our last entry, but we are seeing Bitcoin potentially sell off here. So we're short Mara again at 32.40. We've already traded this one once before for a nice 2% gain. So let's see if we can bank on it again. Still holding a long on Google. Look at Mara come down, guys. This is a good sign. This is a really good sign. Semis are still weakening here. Honestly, I don't like how long Google's taking. Do not like how long Google is taking. But we are still short Mara again. Mara breaks this little neckline, then it has a potential head and shoulders. And remember, even with the Bitcoin strength yesterday, you had that big gap up on Mara and then a huge reversal. It went red. Mara went red, even though Bitcoin was strong yesterday. Could we see the same sort of pattern happen where it goes red and then they bounce it? I think that there's a scenario where they could flush Mara into earnings and then pop it. We've seen that in AMD, we've seen it in Nvidia, we've seen it in a variety of other stocks where they flush it into earnings and then they pop it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But Mara right back up to the highs. Next ad level on Mara is going to be your double top around 33.11, 33.11. That's basically right up here. Come on, Google. Google's still trying to firm up here. Super weak on the session. Maybe this glimmers of an inverse head and shoulders, the starting glimmers of an inverse head and shoulders. We shall see. So nice little down candle there in Mara. It is about to trigger this head and shoulders pattern, which should take us down to about 30.60, 30.64, give or take. So we're now in the money by about 35 cents on MARA. Look at that decline on Mara, guys. Beautiful decline. That's a thing of beauty. That is a thing of beauty. Guys, I just closed my Mara at 31.81, 31.81. I just closed Mara at 31.81. That is a nice little trade. I am all out of MARA at 31.81. Beautiful little gain there again, just under 2% on the day trade, so that's another winner in the books. Let's look at that Russell 2000. It is still trying to push up. We are slightly down on this trade. I can see this parallel channel. Could be chopping in that all day today. You can see we're at support right now. Google still coming in. And that's because the QQQ is just can't catch a bid right now. Trying to break out of this inverse, but really struggling at this zone. I still think Google can firm up, but it's kind of running on fumes here. Certainly lagging and underperforming the market. Let's look at the Qs. BA is doing something today. Your analysis, please, on medium and long term. So Boeing's just been getting hit with bad news after bad news headline. You know, so it's actually, I don't know if this is on a news pop, this little pop. Is there news on Boeing, guys? Or is this just a tech? I mean, this is from the open. I don't know if there's any headlines. Anyone see anything on Boeing? But that's a nice move on Boeing. That's a really good move. Weak market, Boeing's firming up. I mean, I would have liked Boeing to come down a little bit more to satisfy this trend line. You can see this trend line going all the way back to September 2022. So it's a multi-year trend line, pivot zone here in October 2023. I would have liked for Boeing to flush a little bit more and hit this trend line. You can also see that in that simultaneous upsloping trend line, there's a gap fill that sits here at 196.66. That was my buy entry, and it never came down. So, I mean, this little breakout, I think the big level that we have to watch on Boeing is, can we get above this little wedge pattern? I do think that there's, since you're having a nice bullish reversal today, there's a great shot at moving up here. Obviously, medium to long term, you kind of have to be bullish on Boeing because it has this duopoly of the whole entire space, you know, 10-year wait list for planes. It's just it's got a monopoly, right? So it naturally, the stock is going to go higher. So I think you have to respect that at that point. But right now, it's still a no touch for me. It hasn't broken out truly. You're still inside of this little bit of a wedge, but this is a buyable zone in my opinion. If we can flush back down into this zone, this 196, 190 low, pierce 196, that's probably the buy zone for me. Intraday, I mean, let's just look at this intraday pattern. You'll have resistance at the hourly EMA 113 sitting at 204.84. You are running into these pivots here. So there is some decent resistance. One could argue that you have triggered this little inverse head and shoulders. This is the 20-minute chart. You have this big left shoulder, you have your head, and now you form this right shoulder. And basically your neckline would be observed like that. So intraday, this pattern could squeeze to a high of roughly, yeah, it could squeeze all the way up to about 207 today. That's certainly feasible. Now, I don't hold any position at the moment, but it does look feasible to push higher here. All right, Qs. Let's look at the QQQ chart here. 1 minute chart. Still potentially forming a bullish reversal. Remember, you have crypto strong, semis weak. Many sectors have firmed up. At the start of the market session, all sectors were red. And now you've actually had some firming in price action. You've had XLY, XLU, XLRE, XLP, XLI, XLF, and XLE, and materials all firm up. Really what's lagging is XLK, so tech and healthcare, two very large sectors. And then you have a downtrend in both the Dow components, the transports and the industrials. And that's probably because oil is super strong today and on watch for a technical breakout. So still a lot of weakness under the hood of the market. Remember that technology and healthcare are some of the heaviest weighted sectors. So as long as they're negative, the indices do have a shot of going lower today, going much lower. Google's still trying to push up. We're still riding long Google. We've taken 2 profits on Mara shorts. We've taken profits on an SOXS long. We're holding a Russell short, which is slightly against us at the moment. Nvidia is forming a bear flag. It looks like it wants to go lower. Would not shock me if Nvidia breaks lower and really tests pre-market low at 770. Tesla just made a new high of day. That one's breaking out nicely. That one is breaking out quite nicely. Oil's taking a small breather. Same thing with natural gas, just putting in some sideways consolidation. Still a lot of weakness in the mega caps today. Nat gas still consolidating. Oil's taking a small breather here. Oil is taking a small breather. Unfortunately, Google's also taking a breather. Looks like it wants this gap fill, so this will be our final entry on Google at this 135.72 zone. So Google at this 135.72 will be our final entry. Even Bitcoin seeing some sell side pressure. In terms of mega caps that are underperforming, you have Nvidia down 1.75%. That's weighing in on the Qs. Certainly weighing in on the Qs. Again, crypto stocks are struggling today. You know, it seems like they're selling into it, and it makes me more bullish on that earnings report. The more they sell into it, you know, the more it makes me think that they're going to gap it up. We saw it on AMD, Nvidia. Almost makes me want to take a high risk lotto play, throw some cash into some options, some out of the money option calls. I'll look at the chain. Another attempt for the Qs here, another attempt for the Qs. If they keep getting rejected at this neckline, I mean, that's not a healthy sign. Apple's curling down, looking for a new low of day on Apple. Oil's taking a breather. So oil did confirm that hourly chart breakout. Now we need to really get above the daily chart support level. So Google's trying to firm up, Microsoft's curling up, Apple curling down, Nvidia curling down. You can see the Qs are still hovering and trying to break out of this little neckline. We can actually draw it here now because you have to connect that pivot high as your neckline. So let's see what transpires here. BA News, the FAA criticizes Boeing, says it wants to plan in 90 days to address quality problems. Thank you, Ram. Thank you, appreciate it. So that's some, again, that's negative news for BA, but BA is acting well. So whenever you start seeing negative headlines really not working anymore to drive down the price, that's telling you something. That's telling you technical strength and people are accumulating. So you have to remain kind of tactically bullish on Boeing at this point in time since it is trying to firm up. Qs are trying to break out, guys. Our Google position is trying to firm up here. Our Google position is trying to firm up here. Nat gas is trying to also make another curling price action. I'm still interested in going long on nat gas, but I want to see it dip a little bit more. So I'm looking at Boyle longs, KOLD shorts again. I think that nat gas is consolidating now above the short squeeze zone, and once it starts to really firm up here and work off some of the weak hands, we're going to start squeezing in nat gas. I really do think that. Oil's taking a breather back below $79 now, 78.72. So that should help the markets breathe a little bit more. Whenever oil weakens, that should help the overall market. So again, eBay up 7, Axon up 6.3, First Solar up 4, Agilent Technologies up 3.8, Albemarle Marley Lithium stock up 3.4, Universal Health up 2.8, Constellation Energy, Moderna up 2, Boeing up a couple percent, UNH down 5.3, a big whopping deterrent on the healthcare stocks. Let's look at UNH quickly, because that's a household name, and that one's gapped down on that antitrust suit. So this is why healthcare is weak today. This is why healthcare is weak today. So you can see the Qs are breaking out of this little inverse head and shoulders. So Qs are breaking out here. Take a look at UNH. Nice whopping gap down. I do anticipate UNH to catch a bid at some point. It's a household name. You can see you actually had your initial morning rally. So this one actually could flounder all day long. Tough spot for UNH. It's a really tough spot for UNH. Again, Qs are trying to break out. Oil's coming lower. Russell's trying to push up as well. Apple's still curling down. Google curling down. Meta curling down. Nvidia trying to bounce here, but a bear flag is forming on Nvidia right over pre-market low. If Nvidia loses pre-market low, it could sell off quite substantially. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if Nvidia starts to sell off a little bit more. Tesla's still acting well. Meta's still okay. And thanks for the little news updates there, guys. You know, when I can't seem to find the news, or actually I really don't have time to look at the news, I just look at the charts, but I appreciate when I need a little extra help to find some headlines, because again, I only have 2 eyeballs, so it's kind of a collective effort here when we scan the market, look for setups, look for news-based events, look for any sort of trading opportunities where we can put ourselves in a position to make money. That's the goal here. Bitcoin consolidating above 61,000 quite firmly. No real selling in sight. Again, I find it very peculiar that crypto stocks aren't pushing for new highs. They're still stuck inside yesterday's reversal candle. So that's a little concerning. Alright guys, so the recent sell-off in crude from the 79.22 zone is because of the oil inventories. The consensus was for 3.1 million barrels. It came in at 4.19. So it's implying a weaker demand in oil. It's implying a weaker demand in oil, which is why we've sold off. So crude oil inventory is showing weaker demand. I still think we've had a technical breakout. I'm still remaining bullish. Google's trying to firm up here a little bit. Qs again have broken out here, guys. So the upside target based off of this little intraday pattern is going to be putting us right at 436.52. Still long Google. Still long Google. I'm really curious to see if, and I still have a Russell short. I'm really curious to see how these energy stocks hold up on this weaker oil demand. Right now, they're still holding firm. You still have XLE positive. So at the moment, things are still shaping up quite well. Let's flip back to Bitcoin as well. Come on, Google, get your big butt up there. Get your big butt up there. A couple high fly movers, Beyond Meat squeezing, up 44%. Bets, BETS, up 81. Vanny, what the heck is this Vanny? Up 357%. Let's just take a quick peek at that. Vanny, VANI. Vivani Medical, what have they announced? Probably a new Ozempic drug, some sort of weight loss pill. This one, again, we can maybe play on momentum. It is coming down. Super risky. I mean, massive stick to the upside. Massive stick. It's hard chasing these gap ups, but there's certainly momentum behind it. People will be waiting. Let's look at this BETS. That's also a high volume move. Wow, so you hit a high all the way up to this zone here. What's been your pre-market high? So let me just look at the pre-market high of this BETS. So take a look at this stock. This is still up quite sharply. So your pre-market high today was really only, wow, that's kind of interesting. Your pre-market high was right here. Actually, I guess no. Your pre-market high was all the way up here. So you're below pre-market high, but you're well above the pre-market low. So that's a huge range on this BETS. That's a magnificent range. Trying to see if we can catch a momentum trade here on some of these speculative names. It seems that we are in a little bit of a squeezing environment. So there's a scenario where we could go long this name. All right, guys, I'm going to go long 459. I just got filled. 459. I just got filled. This is a high-risk trade on BETS. High-risk trade, size appropriately, size light. Size light, because this one could flush. Stop loss is going to be basically a tight stop loss in and around this 427 range. I will look to stop out. So below this pivot. Again, it's only a 1/4 entry and it's super, super light. I will add to the position if we flush into this trend line here, 432. Super, super dangerous position though. It's not for the faint of heart. Not for the faint of heart, but we're just simply trying to do a momentum trade here. A momentum trade. The liquidity environment does favor continuation up just with how stocks have been moving lately. But again, nothing's immune to a market sell-off, and there's certainly risk chasing these names when they're already up 83% on the session. You can see it has pulled in from the highs quite substantially. Nvidia's curling up. Microsoft's trying to curl up. So now the Russell's weakening as well. The Russell is starting to weaken. Google coming back down. So again, I'm only going to add one more time to this BETS if it hits this 435 zone. And then our stop loss is sitting at 422 pivot. Google coming right back down. This one's unfortunately not really cooperating with us. It's kind of beating us up here. All right, we hit that upsloping trend line again. Very close to adding here to bets, BETS, but hasn't quite come down to our level. We are seeing Apple still curling down, Meta curling down, Amazon curling down, Bitcoin's lost. All right, guys, I did add to my BTS at 433. I got filled, 433. I got filled. That brings us down to 445 average. 445 average. Again, it may blast through our stop here, guys. I'm not going to get cute with this name. I'd rather take a small loss than for this position to go against us. But we are still at some technical support here, so there is an ability for it to bounce. But it really needs to firm up here. Still holding a long on Google, short on the Russell. Tesla still ripping, Microsoft curling up. Apple's now curling up. Bitcoin curling down. So again, crypto stocks could see a little bit of a down move coming into the picture. Come on, bets, get your butt up there. You can see Bitcoin here weakening just a little bit. SPY and Qs are trying to push up. Bigger sell coming in Bitcoin, guys. Bigger sell coming into Bitcoin. Ozempic competitor, thank you. Briston, appreciate that. Anybody else looking at any setups at the moment that we haven't discussed? We are seeing the Qs catch a nice little bounce. Google's still underperforming. Qs are trying to push up some more. So you do have Apple negative, Nvidia negative, Microsoft flat, AMD negative, SMCI negative, Tesla up 1.6, outperforming everything else. Meta slightly negative, Google down by 1.79, Amazon down by 0.04%. Oil still holding its gains, up about 0.65%, but it has pulled in from the highs. Nat gas is up 2.67%. 2.67%, BA up 2.24, so that's continuing to grind higher since we discussed it. Square, MJ up nicely. That Viking Therapeutics up another 7% today, so I had a whopping over 120% day yesterday, and it's continuing to climb on the back of its weight loss drug news. Just scrolling through here to see what else is transpiring in the market. TGTX up 30%. Big move on NVAX. Novavax down 29.4. Wow. NVAX. It's getting slaughtered, eh? On earnings. All right, here comes bets, guys. Here comes bets. Bets is starting. Look at the Qs. Google's still trying to trend for the low of day. All right, guys, big push on BETS here. Look at this squeeze. So we're now in the controlling driver's seat of this trade. As we progress, we're going to move stops up. So I'm actually going to move my stop to break even. Well, slightly in the money, 447. We don't want to get cute with these high flyer names because they have these big swings out of nowhere. So we are nicely in the money. So I just put a protective in the money stop in place. There is a protective stop in place. Here we go, guys. Let's see if we can get a big squeeze. Let's see if we can get a big squeeze. Come on, bets. Get up there. Retest your pre-market highs, 501. So I'm expecting a retest of that range. That would basically give us a whopping 12% rip. Here we go, guys. This is a banger. Let's adjust stops. Let's adjust stops. Push your stop up a little bit more just to secure some profits. 451 stop in place. 451 stop is now in place. Still riding a Google long and a Russell short. Come on, baby. Get up there. Get up there. So we're locking in at least 1.5% on the day trade. At least 1.5%. I'm actually going to push it up a little bit more here. I want to lock in a little bit more, 2% at least. So 454 stop, hard stop. No dilly-dallying. Come on, bets. Push up. Push up. Get above this pivot. We're going to squeeze to high. Their pre-market high. The dollar's back above 104. I repeat, the dollar is back above 104. That means that the indices can sell off at any point. That's the critical tightening range for emerging markets. Google coming lower here. So, I mean, this Google trade has just been a monster to us. As oversold as it is, even on the daily chart, you're hitting some really good support. You know, it's still not really firming up and catching a bid at all. And it's actually putting in a little bit of a bear flag pattern on the 10-minute intraday chart. Google's trying to make a new low of day. Come on, bets. Squeeze higher here. Squeeze. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Here we go, guys. Move stops, adjusting stops on BETS. 462. We're going. We're squeezing here, guys. Beautiful trade if you're in this with us. Beautiful fucking trade. Let's go, man. Come on, come on. Come on. Push up. Don't give it up. Don't stop us out. Do not stop us out. Come on. You can break. You can break it. You know you want to. I just got stopped out, guys, for a nice 3.96% gain. Good job if you took that trade with us, but I did get stopped out. I can look to re-enter now. Basically, where I would re-enter is this next trend line of support, which sits around here. So I did get stopped out for a nice little gain there, guys. If you took that trade with us, nicely done. Still holding a Google long. You are seeing the indices trying to push up here. We'll see if we can catch this. I'll keep bets on my other screen. I just want to watch the Qs here since we are in a QQQ trade. Remember, the Qs did try breaking out here. Still stuck under this resistance now on the Qs. So why we're struggling here on the Qs despite triggering an intraday bullish pattern is because you have this resistance pivot. This pivot zone to this. So the Qs are struggling here. I'm watching BETS on my other screen. Still holding a Google long, a Russell short. We've taken 2 winners off of Mara. We've taken a winner on Sox. We've taken a winner on bets. So we're in the driver's seat today. We are now in the driver's seat today. If Google can firm up, that would be awesome. Let's see some of these other high-flying movers. Beyond Meat, that's a high short interest name, up 48%. I mean, just wild moves. So let's look at this BYND. Look at BYND. Wow, look at that dip to the 200. That's showing great strength, BYND. Dip to the 200, recapturing this pivot zone. Jeez. This name could push up actually more. Just from the short interest alone, you could probably push up to about 1360 today. That would not shock me at all. So I'll keep BYND on watch. Qs are weakening here. Google's trying to test a new low of day. But look at this BYND. You know, you can see it's trying to hold above this pivot zone. You even came down and tested the daily 200 MA. Look at that clinical bounce off the daily 200. What a bounce. That was epic. That was epic. You're just in this wedge pattern. You can see you're approaching the apex. Support, resistance, and then you get a big directional break at some point. Alright, Qs are just so weak still. My oh my. XOM pushing back up, same thing with oil. So that initial sell-off on oil inventories is now starting to firm up. We are starting to firm up in oil inventories. Dollar catching a really big bid. Qs are coming in now. Russell's trying to firm up again. Russell's the only positive indice. SPY Qs are all negative. Sorry, the Russell's also negative. My apologies. Russell's negative. But you have had a lot of sectors turn green on the session. Right now, Microsoft, Apple curling down, Amazon curling down, Meta curling down, Nvidia trying to curl up. Bitcoin's losing 61,000 at the moment. Still very strong on the session. Hey Nareesh, welcome. Tesla 206 next. Yeah, 206 looks very likely. I even see 207. You know, I see that gap fill. I think we're going to charge for that gap fill. If the Qs firm up today, I could see Tesla pushing for that 207.80 gap fill. That's certainly in the realm of possibilities for this name. But it's going to have to require the market to firm up. So we're still riding a Google long down here, slightly down on the trade. We've already taken 4 different winners. And we're riding a Russell short still. So an IWM short and a Google long. So notice the Russell has lost this little initial channel that it was consolidating in. And it's getting a little bit distributive in this pattern. Big move up, big move down. Big move up, big move down. Kind of a lower high double top scenario. Watching the Russell here. MSTR, just sold my position, had some nice profits. Sorry, it's... Oh, yeah, I knew it was MSTR. I love your energy, bro. Thanks, Ram. Appreciate it. You know, it's always nice when you can execute wins in the live trading stream here. So Nareesh is bullish on Tesla. That's looking for a new high of day. I kind of agree with him on that. It's creating a nice flag pattern. Obviously, you have to remember that the Qs are still weak, but that name is strong in a weak market. So relative strength traders will be pushing this name. QQQ tech traders will be targeting Tesla just based off of relative strength bias. Obviously, if Amazon starts to break down and apply pressure to XLY, consumer discretionary, that could hinder the upside. But as of now, it's looking definitely the momentum trade to be in on. We're still holding our Google long. We're slightly down. Our average is sitting here at 136.54. I'd still like to see Google maybe come down to fill this gap, which is at 135.72. That would be our next entry. What I am liking, the small positive, is that Google made a little bit of a double bottom. So let's see if we can build momentum off of this. Apple trying to curl up. I guess my charger was unplugged there. We are seeing the Qs continually trying to push up. SPY is where the relative strength is today. SPY is outperforming the other indices at the moment. Let's look at Bitcoin again. Heavy volume coming in on Bitcoin at these zones. So there's quite a bit of volume surging on Bitcoin. SPY is about to go green here, guys. So the SPY is about to go green. It's coming up into its gap fill. So an epic bounce in the SPY. Really, really big bounce in the SPY. Take a look at that bullish recovery at the moment. Things are looking like they want to turn green for the S&P. This is a day trade short zone for the SPY as we come up into this gap fill. So call it around a 507 Pierce. A 507 Pierce, we're going to start to short the SPY. Google's still coming in. Qs are now firming up. Big push on Nvidia and semis. The dollar is back under 104. Oil's still trying to push up. This bets is into some support here. It's intriguing for a long. It is intriguing for a long. Already traded it once. May want to come a little bit lower. All right, guys, I just went long BETS 436. 436 light position. Light position. It's a starter position. 436. 436. Keep a tight stop loss on this trade. You can see why we went long just at that trend line. Basically, my stop loss is going to be at 430, just below this green impulse candle. So just below this green impulse candle is our stop, but we are long BETS again, right off of this trend line, still holding a long on Google and a short on the Russell. Let's play ball, see what we can do. Come on, baby. I'm not going to add to the bets position. I'm just going to stop out if it hits 430. Win, lose, or draw. I'm not going to add to the position. But we are long again. Still holding Google long. Come on, bets. You're into some good technical support here. Let's see you firm up. Microsoft, Tesla going for a new high of day. Microsoft pushing up. Amazon, Meta kind of lagging. Bitcoin also pushing for a new high. All right, so BTS is almost at our stop. Still hasn't triggered my stop. Still just hovering at that zone. Still long. It's right at that zone. It needs to pierce that 430 to stop me out. But it's right there. It's right there. The volume is increasing there. All right, guys, I just got stopped out at 429 right before that big drop. Holy, what a drop there. So unfortunately, that was a 5-cent loss on the trade. You can see it is trying to bounce again, but I'm going to no-touch this one at this point in time. It's kind of seen its move. I think the bigger move is done, and now anyone that's trying to day trade this on the long side, it's a very difficult trade right now. So we'll continue to look for some other setups here. But that was a 5-cent loss on that trade. So it was very small, and it was only a starter position, very, very light sizing. Google just does not want to firm up. Remember, we'll add at 135.72 on Google. We'll add at the gap fill. Notice that definitely the relative strength in the Qs. Big move up in the Qs, and Google's just can't seem to catch a bid. Very, very, very strange. Still interested in a SPY short. It's now approaching the 11:06 time frame, so we've been on trading for the last 36 minutes. Tesla new high, Google new low. Google's putting in a new low of day. Volume is increasing in this range. So again, we'll add at this 135.72. That will be my final add. I won't add to the position after that. Oil's starting to weaken just a little bit here. Bitcoin just testing a new high, 61.3. 61.3 on Bitcoin. SPY taking a small little dip and breather there. Google trying to push up. Oil's now selling off a little bit sharper now. So those 105 calls, Ram, if you're in the money, you may want to look at some profit taking as they are dumping oil here. It may look like they're trying to push oil negative here. They are trying to push it negative. You know, there's still a lot of support in this range, but they are trying to dump it. EE $15 call expiring March 15th. I'm in the money 29%. I'll take a look at EE. The ticker is EE. So EE, is that the right ticker? Accelerate Energy. Is that the right ticker? I've never traded this name. EE $15 call. Yeah, so it must be. So you're already in the money, or sorry, I'm in the money 29%. Okay, so $15 is basically up as just past this gap fill. So I'd just like to mark 15 on the chart. So 15, let's go to the daily chart of this EE. So I mean, positive is that you're holding this triple bottom, pivot to pivot. There seems to be a lot of buyers here. The only thing that I'm observing is that when you bounced here, you had a really big bounce into the EMA 113. When you bounced here, you had a weaker bounce. And you did put in a lower high or lower low. You're now bouncing. So, I mean, this does appear to be very, very oversold. Positive divergence on the RSI. I mean, I think you could still retest this 1591 zone on EE. Is it more in the gas or oil space, this ticker? I'm not too familiar with it. Gas. Okay, utilities. So gas utilities, yeah. So I mean, utilities have been under pressure, but you can see utilities are testing the EMA 113 on the daily, and then when you look at this EE is really only struggling at the EMA. It's way below the EMA 113, so it's actually showing relative weakness comparison to the utilities ETF. Now it's either going to catch up and have a really big move. You obviously have earnings coming up, which is today. So that runs the risk. You know, heading into earnings, you are oversold. You can get a pop, but obviously it's a gamble. You could drop still. And it doesn't have much data to it. You know, it's only been trading since the year 2022. So as of now, you are still oversold at technical support, putting a nice weekly RSI curl. But you do run the risk of heading a little bit lower here if you get a negative earnings reaction. So I mean, 29% gain, is it worth risking that? Obviously, I don't know how big of a position it is in your portfolio. You could trim half and leave runners. At least if you drop, you've got a little bit of a buffer since you trimmed. So hopefully that helps. Now I'm negative 19. It's a reversal. Yeah, I mean, that's the tough thing, right? Options go so quickly these days. You're up, you're down, you're all the way around. SPY just pulling in from the highs. Never officially filled that gap. If SPY doesn't fill this gap, that is extremely bearish. If the S&P does not fill this little technical gap at 506.93, that's super, super bearish. As the bulls would have had a strong attempt at breaking above that, and it's looking like they're failing. I'm still holding a long on Google and a short on the Russell. Our Russell average is at 202.85. It's only a half position. So the Russ, a little bit of a bear flag forming on SPY chart. Okay. All right, everybody on this stream, I am going to close this stream. There's a few people watching here. Michael, Tom, Orem, if you're on the stream, I am going to close this stream that I'm. I do have a secondary stream running. I was just trying a couple different things with some new streaming software, so hop on the other stream, guys, because I am going to close this one in a couple minutes, and the other one will stay rolling. So we're pleased to have you on board the other YouTube stream.